I'm Tricia Benn, CEO of C-Suite Network and your host of Selling Power TV on C-Suite Network, bringing you a lineup of incredible speakers and experts from Sales 3.0. Just wait and stay tuned with us. We're here with Jeremy Miner, CEO and founder of Seventh Level. Jeremy, I'm so thrilled to have you here. What an incredible engagement and discussion you led today, and your speech.
Now, is that what you say to every sales trainer?
I try to.
Come on,
I
now.
try to. But here's something, and we've spoken. Trust is a big thing in the C-Suite network. Yeah. Trust means everything, and you spoke a great deal about that. I'd love for you to share. Yeah. Why is that so important in our prospects' mind, and how do you really take advantage of that in a good way, of course?
Trust is really where the sales made. I'm no longer the CEO anymore. I got demoted. I'm the founder, just the founder guy. So Marco's our CEO. He's like, I'm not the CEO.
You have so much time on your hands now.
I know, right? Yeah, I don't have to run the business anymore. Trust is where the sales made, right? Everybody talks about trust, but I think most salespeople and companies don't really understand how that's generated in the prospect's mind, right? You know, like Dale Carnegie has a great book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, but where he talks about, people buy from people they like. I agree with that, but the issue there from a behavioral point of view is that prospects have changed since 1936, right? I mean, we're in 2024 now, so, the power of the internet, social media, like, there's more negative comments. They know they have many options to choose exactly what you're offering to them. So I would say that people don't buy from really people they like. They buy from people or companies they trust can get them the best result. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're your best friend or they have to like you in that sense. Now, it doesn't mean that you should be hated at all, but they don't really buy from you just because they like you. I mean, think of how many friends you have, right? And if they were selling you something, like, I don't know if I'd buy it from them.
Well, here's the thing that's interesting about trust as well is, what do you trust that person to do? And you mentioned about results, but frequently that's actually not a part of the judgment that's being made in the B2B decision-making space. I'm curious how you address that.
Well, trust is built strictly by a few things. Trust is actually built by the questions you actually ask that get the prospect to internalize what you asked. That's one thing. There's a whole lot into that. It's also built by how you use your tonality that can either cause the prospect to let their guard down and emotionally open up to you and tell you the truth of what their real problems are, or vice versa. If your tone is off, right, they can get defensive and stay surface level, right? And it's also, trust is also built by your body language. Even if they can't see you, like even if you're on the phone, and they can't see your body language. A lot of salespeople just sit there and they're just kind of stiff. But the problem is that your body, especially your facial expressions, actually are the remote control of how your tone sounds. Mm-hmm. So if you just sit here like this, you're going to sound monotone when you're talking, right? Because you're not moving your arms. You're not understanding. How do you mean by it's an issue, right? So confused tone there that triggers their subconscious to say, oh, he didn't understand what I meant by I'm having this problem. I need to explain that better. And that gets them to start emotionally open up. And when you're able to learn those techniques, that gets the prospect to feel comfortable enough to open up to you emotionally, they start to trust you, right? If they stay surface level with you and you ask questions and they give you vague, generalized surface level answers, they don't trust you. Usually that's because how you started that conversation on the phone, in person, on Zoom, whatever, triggered some type of sales resistance, and now their guard's up. So it's hard for them to take that guard down.
Right. So Jerry, I love the way your body kind of went robotic, and you're explaining that. And then you look at AI now and what can be done with AI. How do we address that? How does that challenge what trust we need to build versus give us an opportunity and an advantage?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll kind of answer it two different ways. Maybe I'm answering the wrong type of question, but I do believe that AI eventually will replace like very, very low ticket sales. I mean, things that are $25, $50, $100. I don't think it'll ever replace more high ticket or complex selling environment type of solutions, simply because there's this thing called the FTC. And I cannot imagine when, let's say, Grandma Betty buys something over the phone for $3,000 from some AI robot, and then she complains that she got scammed from this robot or whatever, and the FTC is going to come down and regulate that so hard. And people eventually, it's crazy enough, will be like, no, I want to talk to a real human being rather than AI. So I think it will replace small ticket, but there's no way it can ever replace like higher ticket stuff because FTC will regulate it too much.
It's so interesting. So where do you think it will be useful, and how will it move us ahead quickly?
I mean, there's, obviously there's different solutions for different industries that's going to move ahead. Like if you're, with AI, there's like healthcare SaaS is a big industry for us as well. And, there's AI out there that will dictate their notes automatically so the doctor doesn't spend 2 hours doing it himself. That gives each doctor, just an example, 2 more billable hours to see 2 more hours of patients every day times 5 days a week.
Jeremy, you'll love this. I just went to my doctor's office recently, and it ended up taking an hour longer because she locked herself out of her system accidentally.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So AI is going to solve a lot of challenges and problems. Yeah, for sure. The average doctor, 2 hours a day.
Yeah.
So they either do that during work, so they can't see patients during those hours, so billable hours are gone, or they have to do it at night and miss their kids' ball games, can't sleep. So AI is going to solve a lot of problems everywhere. I just know, like I said, as like a sales training company, because a lot of people are like, oh, well, we don't need sales training later on. I'm like, well, companies that use AI are going to have to license out sales methodologies to be able to actually use for low ticket sales. So if you have a sales methodology, that is actually a really good thing for you as a sales training company. So I think it's going to be useful.
So we have all of the conversation happening about AI, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on coming back to the fundamentals and then that outstretch to the new, and where you see that kind of falling out over the next few years.
It depends on how AI becomes as far as like knowing how to influence their brain with even their tonality, because that's a big thing, right? Now, for AI to be able to do that, they're going to have to, like I said, license out methodologies in sales training that teach their AI how to do that, right? Because like if I'm, if you saw me in the room there where I talked about like if somebody said, for an example, like, oh, we're, just get back to us. We really like what you presented, but, we're not interested right now. Keep in touch. And if I called back and said like, yeah, that's not a problem. It's not a big deal. Can I ask you something? And I lower my tone and concern tone. Well, how does AI know how to do that at that moment rather than like, hey, can I ask you something? Right? Where the tone might get defensive. And I'm like, how can I, communicate to you that you might be making a mistake without you getting upset with me? See, I lowered soft tone concern. Can AI know how to do that right at that moment based on the prospect's tone and the prospect's body language? We'll see. But even if it can do that in 10, 15 years, it's going to have to license out a methodology that can teach it how to do that.
It's just fascinating, isn't it?
It's a wild, wild west. I really don't know. I think we're all guessing right now. But like I said, the FTC will always regulate stuff like that because you're going to have consumers that complain, I was scammed by that. They pressured me, the AI, they manipulated my brain. And the FTC is going to come in and regulate all that stuff. I don't think a lot of people think about that.
And the back charges and all kinds of things.
It's not like everybody's like, oh, AI is going to take all sales. I'm like, can you imagine when like somebody buys something for 10 grand or whatever and they feel like they got scammed from AI, they're going to complain to the Attorney General, it's going to go FTC, and bam, there's going to be lots of regulations. I don't think people think about that.
And then how that works with other countries coming into North America.
Well, like I said, prospects will eventually be like, hey, I want to talk to a real person, right? So let's say if I'm in country right now and I call customer service, and let's say somebody answers in a foreign country and they have really broken English and I can only speak English, sometimes they get upset, right? They're like, oh, give me somebody that talks my language or whatever. You're going to have prospects that be like, I want to talk to a real salesperson.
Here's the scary thing is, how will we even know? I mean, maybe the regulation will say you have to declare that it is. Yeah.
Come on, do you want to talk to this or a real person?
Right.
A real person. See, I'm telling you, people will start to opt to talk to a real person because they don't think the real person can manipulate them
as
like
easily.
AI. Yes.
Well, that's fascinating, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Jeremy.
We'll see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we'll come back. Speaking of coming back, the Sales 3.0 conference, would you just tell us about your experience of it and what you like to say?
No, it was good. The interesting thing is, and I told Gerhard this, I've known Gerhard for about a year and a half. When I was back in corporate America at Vivint, that's where I started my career and then got into B2B sales. every company I worked for had Selling Power magazine like in the lobby. Like literally, I started reading that thing back in like 2001. And when I was in B2B sales, I go into different companies' waiting rooms. A lot of them had Selling Power. So like I grew up like in my early 20s and mid to late 20s and 30s reading Selling Power. So I'm like, wow, first of all, I love speaking here at this event with this magazine that I didn't really think anything of 20 years ago. And, I was the first speaker on here, so I haven't met everybody, but the quality, I looked up the speakers, kind of their credentials. I looked up the audience, what companies they represent. There's some massive companies back there. So yeah, I mean, it's a great opportunity to come here and learn all things sales, whether that's, we talked a little bit more about what to ask, what to say, sales training, whereas somebody might else talk about AI in sales, whereas somebody else might talk about how to get your teams to hit their KPIs or executive leadership. So you're kind of getting an all-around approach to all things sales. So that's what I like about this event.
Thank you so much.
It's rare to have an event like that.
It is.
Gives you that rounded up, just all things sales, not just sales training, but CRMs, KPIs, leadership, management, all that stuff. It's really good.
And I love what you said about we're all learning, right? We're learning or we're dying.
Yeah. Always be learning. That's what I said. Everybody, whether you're an athlete, a CEO, a doctor, an attorney, a salesperson, sales manager, VP of sales, doesn't matter. The top 1% of all those fields, they're always learning. That's why they're always at the top. Average executives, average CEOs, average athletes, average coaches, average salespeople, they're average because they stop learning because they think they know everything.
I can't think of a better way to end this conversation, but thank you so much, Jeremy Miner, for joining us today.
It's a pleasure being on here, Tricia. Thank you.
And that's a wrap. I'm Tricia Benn, CEO of C-Suite Network, your host of Selling Power TV. What an incredible set of conversations with the world's best experts in sales at Sales 3.0 with Selling Power.